Welcome back to the newest episode of How in the Hell is the Orchard Doing? As you know, this is a spot in the Hudson Valley in New York, and I just put in these grapevines probably 2 weeks ago, I'm guessing. And this was the first set I put in, and I just wanted to show a little status update. They did break dormancy. They are starting to come out. I painted the bright orange markers here specifically for things so like I wouldn't bump into them or hit them. Especially because they were just little twigs coming out of the ground, and it's awful hard to see them when you're up on the tractor mowing. So, extra large targets is not to hit them, and the cages are just temporary, again, just for some marker. I put a little colored tape up at the top to help with visibility, but they have broken dormancy, and I think they look like they're doing just fine. This row of grapes further down here were planted a week later, and they're just starting to break. You can see the pink buds on these, and they should be opened up probably within another week fully, which is really good. So I think they all took, which is nice. We'll see how well they do. And again, this row of grapes were a little bit more mature in terms of vine size and root structure, so they have a bit of an advantage in terms of the ones that were planted 2 weeks before. This one's perhaps the largest, but it has just the smallest of buds starting to open up on it, and it hasn't really done much other than that yet. So I'm optimistic it'll come through, but it's a little slower. And even the two that were the spares have small buds forming on them. You see that little pink blossom right there. So I think all the grapes are gonna make it. Let's go ahead and do a little update on like the cherry trees that I planted, for those who watched that episode in the series a while ago. Over here you can see one of the examples of the extra large or the supreme size cherries that I ordered from Stark Brothers. It's a good sized tree, good caliper, and as you can see, this is the state of most of them. They're all just barely leafing out like this, which is good. So I think they're gonna also make it. I don't think I have anything except for maybe one or two of the plum trees that haven't shown any signs of life yet. Everything else has got some color on it, and I'm optimistic that it should take. This morning I was just out here spreading some mulch. I'm generally not a big believer in mulch, but the first couple years when you start a fruit tree, it's good to keep the moisture in the ground, especially this soil dries out so easy and turns into this almost concrete-like material when it gets dry. So it makes sense to keep the moisture in it as long as possible. So even though I don't care for it, we'll use it for the first year or two. And over here, I'm now in the stone fruit orchard, which is not to say the cherry trees, those are just kind of sprinkled around wherever, but this is a Stanley prune plum right here. This is one of the stragglers who hasn't shown much, if any, signs of life at this point. It's one of the smallest in the bunch. And this is a Shiro plum, which would be delightful if it would come in because they're very tasty plums. So Japanese plum on the corner, not doing so well so far. We'll see, we'll check in. When you compare it to the other, whip style plums that were planted here, you can see this one is showing a lot more vigor. This is a Methley plum. And it's definitely coming on a little better, which is nice. It's nice to see that growth. Moving again down the orchard, let's just check on some other things. This one right here is a Star King Delicious or something like that, I think is the name of this particular plum. It's one of the Stark Brothers, proprietary varieties as far as I know. It's got some leaves, I should say. Checking in over here, this is the Stanley prune plum that I just showed a minute ago, or one just similar to it. And you can see it's got some color. Coming back through, some interesting leaf breakout on this one, which is nice. This is the Superior Plum Standard Supreme. This one's a pretty good sized caliper tree. This is almost an inch probably. The graft union at the bottom is not that great looking. It's not the strongest looking graft, but I feel strong to the tree. It looks weak. Didn't heal well, I guess. But that one looks like it's got good vigor and will be coming back in with no problem. Likewise here, this is a Damson, which I believe is an English style plum. But it has, I don't know if you can pick that up on the view in the camera, but it does have little tiny leaves all over it, so I think this one will be just fine. It's just a little slower growing than the others in terms of breaking dormancy. And I won't go down the entire row because there's another, 12 trees or something like this, but this is kind of the state of everything today after putting the stuff in the ground about 2 weeks ago. So hopefully they'll continue to flourish and thrive. I have to do a little bit more work with the mulching and things like that, but that's the state of the orchard for today. Maybe I'll do another video on the apples in a week or two about how those are progressing. If you like this video, subscribe, share with your friends, and thanks for watching.